The Inner Awakening Project. Awakening.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're stepping totally away from the traditional history books for a second to look at something that honestly challenges everything you think you know about human history. We're heading to the Ellora Caves in Maharashtra, India, to look at an architectural marvel that quietly forces history, science, and our understanding of human capacity right into the interrogation room together. We're talking about the Kailasa Temple. So dim the lights a bit, get comfortable, and get ready, because we're going to dive into a mystery that's been sitting in the dark for over 1,000 years. Picture this. It's October 16th, 1819, just about 6:40 in the morning. The sky over the Varul Hills is completely choked with these thick, heavy clouds, kind of looking like the heavens themselves are trying to keep a secret, you know? There's a biting cold wind whistling through the terrain and just this eerie, absolute silence. And right there, standing in the middle of an endless stretch of unforgiving, black volcanic rock, an explorer spots something staggering. A structure so impossible the human brain just struggles to process it at first glance. Because what was emerging from that morning mist wasn't just a building. It was a monolithic temple. And when I say monolithic, I mean it wasn't a shrine carefully built on top of a mountain by hauling stones up a hill. Nope. This was an entire mountain that had been violently, yet somehow beautifully, hollowed out and totally transformed into a sanctuary. The sheer shock of finding this at the Ellora Caves, it literally cannot be overstated. I mean, just imagine the scale of that ambition. It's like somebody looked at a massive, solid geological formation and just decided, yeah, I'm going to carve a sprawling, multi-story religious complex straight out of this, leaving only the temple behind. It absolutely defies logic. Okay, let's dive into this, because this is where the engineering reality gets truly mind-bending. Think about it. 99% of the structures you and I have ever walked into were built using traditional construction, right? Bottom up. You lay a foundation, you build the walls, you slap a roof on top. Makes total sense. But Kailasa was constructed top down. The architects actually started at the very peak of the mountain roof and slowly, painstakingly cut their way down to the foundation. It's exactly like someone carving a little sculpture out of a block of wood, except the block of wood is a literal mountain of solid volcanic rock. It flips everything we know about architecture completely upside down. And that brings us to what modern engineers call the unforgiving blueprint. Just think about the sheer audacity of step one here. How in the world does a master architect hold the entire, intricate 3D map of a massive temple in their head before a single chisel even strikes the stone? Because remember, they were cutting downward. There's no 3D rendering software, no trial and error. If you're carving top down and you accidentally cut a pillar just a little too thin or chip away a crucial support beam, oops, you can't just glue the rock back on. There are zero structural corrections possible. The whole thing could collapse. There was absolutely no margin for error. Every single strike had to be mathematically perfect from day one. And get this, despite working under those literally impossible constraints, they didn't just carve out some boring square bunker. They created absolute precision artwork. We're talking sweeping scenes from the epic Ramayana and the Mahabharata, breathtaking depictions of cosmic deities, and giant life-size stone elephants seamlessly holding up the base of the temple. Every single little detail, every delicate fold of a stone garment was done with the constant, terrifying knowledge that one wrong strike would shatter the irreplaceable stone. Yet here we are, 1,200 years later, and this breathtaking symmetry is still standing perfectly intact. Kind of makes our modern reliance on steel and concrete look a bit silly, doesn't it? To really grasp the scale of this enigma, we gotta look at how it defies time. It all supposedly starts way back in the 8th century, under the reign of Rashtrakuta Emperor Krishna I. Then, fast forward to October 1819, when modern civilization rediscovers it just hiding out in the hills. Jump to the 20th century, where modern structural engineers look at the precision of this top-down carving and literally throw their hands up in total bafflement. And well, that brings us to today. And even looking forward into May 2026, the mystery is still completely unsolved. What kicked off in the 8th century is still completely paralyzing the greatest architectural minds of the 21st century. Crazy, right? Now consider this staggering number for a second. 400,000. That is the estimated tonnage of solid rock that had to be excavated and removed to create the Kailasa Temple. 400,000 tons. And keep our timeline in mind. This was the 8th century. No modern drilling tools, no diesel-powered cranes, absolutely no dynamite to blast away the rock, just hammers, chisels, and human hands. I mean, even if you had thousands of laborers working day and night, a project of this magnitude should have taken hundreds of years. But ancient records actually suggest it was completed in a shockingly short time frame, which, just adds a whole other layer of logistical impossibility to the entire site. So the really crucial question here is, where on earth did all the rocks go? Honestly, this is my absolute favorite part of this whole detective story. You cannot simply vanish 400,000 tons of volcanic rock. If you chisel away a mountain, there should be a staggering mountain-sized pile of rubble right nearby, right? But there isn't. Archaeological surveys have found no clear record of the waste, and zero massive rubble piles in the surrounding areas that could account for that immense volume of stone. Some folks suggest it was used for other regional projects, but just the logistics of moving 400,000 tons of debris without machinery, that's a massive unsolved mystery all on its own. It is quite literally a magician's trick, but on a massive geological scale. Naturally, when you have a huge vacuum of facts, it creates an absolute storm of theories. We generally find two main camps trying to solve this enigma. Over on one side, historians argue this is simply peak human skill, like the absolute pinnacle of Indian architectural devotion and generational craftsmanship. On the flip side, we've got theories of lost ancient tech. Now, while completely unverified, the darker corners of the internet are absolutely filled with claims that precision like this required ancient energy systems, lost scientific methods, or maybe a civilization far more advanced than ours. As your guide for this explainer, I'm definitely not here to take a side, but it is super fascinating how the temple forces us to ask the question, if this really was just hammer and chisel, why does it still seem so impossibly out of reach for us today? Let's just slow down for a second. To actually build this thing, the architects had to enter a truly profound state of mind. See, the Kailasa Temple was originally inspired by Mount Kailash itself, which is the sacred abode of Lord Shiva. So replicating a divine mountain in solid stone wasn't just another construction gig, it was an act of profound spiritual manifestation. The builders had to achieve this incredible resolution where the whole concept of time, the grueling exhaustion of physical labor, and most importantly, that paralyzing fear of failure had completely vanished. Every single chisel strike was an act of absolute faith. It required a psychological endurance that's honestly just as baffling as the engineering itself. Which brings us to our final thought today. Thousands of tourists currently stand before Kailasa, snapping photos of a sheer scale. But for those who take a quiet moment to stand in the morning shadows, even now, approaching May 2026, just looking at those ancient walls, a kind of haunting realization sets in. Empires have crumbled, kings have turned to dust, but this monolithic enigma, it remains, and it leaves us with a highly provocative question. Do we really know the true capabilities of our ancestors, or is a massive chapter of human history still hiding in the dark, just waiting in the stone? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep questioning the impossible.